Our next speaker is Kim Hegwood. She's an elder law and estate planning attorney based in Houston, Texas. She has been a practicing attorney since she graduated from South Texas College of Law in 1996. Kim started her own law firm in 1998 so she could practice law her way with a focus on family. Kim's practice focuses exclusively on elder law, asset protection, estate planning, Medicaid crisis planning, probate, and guardianship. Kim is passionate about educating her clients, helping them choose legal strategies that will achieve their goals and help them age with security and dignity.
We have a runner. We have a runner, so just so you know, I'm gonna set this down. Okay, I got 30 minutes. I'm gonna try to get y'all back on track. So I'm gonna talk a little fast and I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I'll try to hit the points that are important. How many of your kids are under the age of 18? Perfect. You're my crowd. Okay. For those of you that are older, you have to bear with me the first few slides. Okay. Let's make sure I can do this. Okay. Our goal in planning is to help you plan the right way. Okay. Hugely important to put a plan in place. I can't stress that enough. It always surprises me when clients come in and say, well, I can't leave my child anything because they won't be eligible for government benefits. And I'm going to prove you wrong today because that's the thing that most people don't get. It's okay. She's a runner. It's all right. We've enjoyed it. And so, plus the rocks are really smooth. That's got to feel good. And stress. So if you're stressed, come grab some of these and rub them. They feel really nice. And so I think a lot of you got the 10 steps with your information. And so we're going to kind of go through that. I have lots of information in folders in my container. So if you want some, I've got some of those that just talks about lots and lots and lots of different things. And so we're going to talk to about today. I got into special needs planning by accident. Your children, you knew pretty much from birth or shortly thereafter. Mine became physically disabled at 14. So I had to learn all this the hard way. It wasn't in my wheelhouse initially. I've been doing this for 25 years. And so I had to learn a lot of stuff the hard way. I firmly believe that God has directed my practice and has put things in the path to make sure I can help the right people. That's how I ended up in elder law too. So all right. So I tell a lot of people, you're here, you may be here without your kids. What happens if you don't go home today? What happens to the kids? So we tell clients that when they're sitting in workshops and things like that, because I need you to think about it. Now, this is like the worst place to be behind the really smart kids. So y'all just gonna have to bear with me. I was like, wow, that's so intelligent. I'm like, and so, but we want to make sure. I want to give you that kind of shock value because I need you to be thinking about it. A lot of our clients that have children with disabilities don't have people that can take them. And that's shocking. I had a lady come into my office and say, I've got 4 kids, one with a disability, and no one will take the 3 that don't have any problems at all. I mean, no one in her family. I thought that was just kind of horrifying. So we want you to be thinking about that because it's really important for you guys. Well, it's really important for everybody, but really important for you guys. We talk to clients a lot about if you leave your child home with the sitter, you get into an accident, police officer shows up at the house to notify somebody you've been in an accident. By law, they cannot leave your children with a babysitter. Now, having said that, family is excluded. But if you got the teenage girl down the street, they'll call CPS to pick them up so they can determine who has the legal right to have them. So in our office, we do extra documents to prevent that. And so we appoint temporary guardians, somebody that can get to your kids in 20 minutes or less. We want to make sure your children are protected. And if you know anything about the CPS system, it's horrifying. And so it's the way too many kids in foster care. Social workers are burned out massively about 3 years because they work them 60, 80 hours a week. I mean, it's kind of sad all the way around. Long-term care, those are the permanent guardians. I'll tell you, there's no one going to raise your kids as well as you. So just so you know. You're looking for the second best. Okay. So you have to lower your standards a little bit. And because we're the perfect parents, right, for our children. So we have to kind of lower them to figure out who's going to be next. Right. And because if you don't make that decision, a judge is going to do it for you. And I tell you that because a judge is going to make a decision based on information given. And y'all watch in TV where you have judges. Okay. They only hear certain information. And if it's not what you want to have heard, it's a problem. So if you've got family members that think if they hang on to your child, there's money there to be had, and they're not the people you want, you need to make sure you designate your guardians in writing, and it has to be done in writing. So, if your children are going to be on government benefits when they turn 18, we want to make sure that if anything happens to you or if something happens to the grandparents or the great grandparents, depending on how young, 'cause some of y'all look very young in here, we want to make sure that they don't come into money accidentally because it's problematic. We tell you that probate is a lawsuit that you file against yourself with your own money for the benefit of creditors. I love that definition. Creditors get paid first in probate. And so, and it's very public. If you want to know if you know somebody that's passed away, you can get on the Harris County Clerk's website. You can read their wills. You can see who their beneficiaries are, names and addresses. And if they've got something you want, I could tell you about the time they're going to get it. So it's always nice to have that stuff. They're trying to do a little better. You know, the inventories have to be filed in most cases. So if you like your privacy, probate court is not where you want to be. And it was funny when I first saw this slide because someone had given it to me. I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, who the heck is Vicki Lynn Marshall? And that is Anna Nicole Smith's real name. So I thought that was funny. So we talk to clients a lot about if y'all have wills in place. Anybody have wills already? All right. If you have wills, I need you to go look at your wills when you get home, pull them out and see how the executor gets compensated. If the executor gets compensated, they get 5% of what comes into your estate and 5% of what goes out. That's a lot of money your kids aren't going to have. And I find that most attorneys don't ask the questions. I'll be honest with you, in my practice, I don't ask because we never compensate them. You work for free. And it's a horrible job, just so you know. Time consuming, no one's happy. It's a horrible job. I've had to do it 3 times and I've hated every family I've had to do it for, including my own. And so I know when you're talking about death and dying, it's got to be entertaining, right? Because you're thinking, geez, girl. So we just kind of give you the little highlights and things like that. All right, let's talk about this 10 steps. All right. Kind of get y'all through, get you back on track, get you out of here because I don't know why you want to go home. It's so hot outside, it's unbelievable. But just in case. Step number 1, we want you to choose the right short-term, long-term guardians. Your short-term guardian, somebody that can get your kids in 20 minutes or less, and hang on to them till the permanent guardian arrives. I have a lot of clients, the permanent guardian doesn't live close. They live out of state. I have 3 or 4 clients, their permanent guardians live out of the country. So somebody has to have the legal right to hang on to those kids. So you want to make sure that you put those things in place that way you know what's going to happen. If your kids are going to be traveling out of the country when you're gone, please, for God's sakes, make sure they got a passport. We want the guardians to be able to get them out easily without a whole lot of heartache and hassle. We want you to think about identify the need for future care planning. What kind of care is your child going to need? Okay. Are they going to be able to live by themselves? Are they going to be able to live by themselves with help? Are they always going to have 24-hour care? I mean, there's different levels of disability. So you have to figure out, where's your child going to be? And for us, I'm one of those people, probably because I've been a lawyer for a long time and I litigated early in my practice, I always plan for your worst case scenario. Because if I do that, I know I'm going to come out on top. I've already seen every family horrifying thing that you can do to each other. So I can pretty much spot your bad family members with a few sentences. And we tell most people, for how many of y'all have 3 or more kids? Yeah, we always tell you those that have 3 or more kids, one is not as good as the others. Okay, so and you know which one it is. You already know. So you have to kind of plan for those. You want to make sure that you get it okay, and then have contingency plans. You have Plan A is the perfect plan. Plan B is the one that if something goes wrong with Plan A, you got Plan B. Okay, and then maybe you need Plan C. But your estate plan is not a one and done. You must update it. In our office, we see you every 3 years. I don't necessarily have to update everything in 3 years, but I want to know what's changed, what's different in your life, what are things are going on, because I want to make sure your plan continues to work for you. A lot of times your trustees, your executors, your agents, all those things change. So you want to make sure you've got that. Guardianship. I don't care what the school district tells you. You do not need to start guardianship if you're in Harris County till 4 months before their 18th birthday. The school district is going to tell you a bunch of crap, pardon the expression. All kinds of things, like your child can make its own decisions at 14 or 15 and stupid stuff like that, so you just tell them your lawyer said no and that they were wrong. If your child doesn't have complete capacity, there's ranges when it comes to guardianship. I like to think of it as a, like a little bell curve kind of thing. You have children that have complete capacity. About the middle of that arc is where things start to get kind of, interesting, because and then when you get to the other half of that half circle, total incapacity. You can only get guardianship between that second half. Okay. And the closer you are to total incapacity, the easier it is to do. The closer you are to the middle, harder. Probably on the other side of the middle, you won't get it. Not a lot of new laws have come into play because they don't want to have your children under a guardianship. If there's any way you can do other things, those other things are like supported decision making agreements. They're great. No one knows about them. They've been out forever, but they're legal documents and they're supposed to work for you, but you're going to have to educate your medical providers, the schools potentially, and everyone else. We want you to plan for and secure government benefits. I always like to throw everything out there so you can see it. For those of you that have worked your time and then become disabled, you get SSDI. Doesn't matter how much money you have, okay? But for most of your kiddos that are going to need help, you're going to qualify them for SSI, and you're going to do that when they turn 18. It doesn't matter how much money you have. And I tell most clients, it doesn't matter how much income you have until you start trying to argue with Social Security about getting their maximum benefit. And then they start doing things like, how much is your mortgage? How many people live in your house? They try to nickel and dime you. And it's only a little over $800. It doesn't pay for crap. But what you want is the Medicaid that goes with it. You may not always want to see a doctor that takes Medicaid per se, but having that and you already have insurance and they're doubly insured means you pay nothing. The year my daughter was 17, her dad and I paid about $17,000 out of pocket trying to alleviate the pain she was in that insurance didn't pay. I mean, it was just, I still today, she's 31. I still today, because I spent so much time at the pharmacy, the pharmacist still knows who I am when I walk up there. And I only see him maybe once a year, once every 2 years. He still knows me. That's how often I was there. I spent a fortune in medical bills. And so I was never so relieved to have Medicaid in my life. And so create a life care plan. You're going to be thinking about public and private sources of support. And so look around. There's lots of nonprofits that will help you. There's lots of different things. You got to do your research. If you don't belong to a support group, find a support group. When you've sucked all the information out of them, find another one. Parents, you guys are the best resource for other parents. You don't want anybody to have to go through what you went through, so you're willing to spill your guts. It's great information. I have learned things from speaking at parent support groups, so they're vastly good for information. You want to develop that financial plan. How much is it going to cost to take care of your child? When you're thinking, well, they're going to get Social Security when I retire. They're going to get that Social Security retirement benefit. It's going to be a couple of grand, maybe 3,000. But what about if Medicaid's not there? What about if their programs are not there? So you have to plan as if things aren't going to be there, because we live in Texas. And as much as I love the great state of Texas, when it comes to Medicaid, we're like the 49th state of taking care of our low income and disabled children. So I want you to plan as if it's not going to be there. So you over plan when it comes to thinking about that financial plan. And definitely do that. We do a lot of trust planning in my office for you that have minor kids, and you've got more than one minor kid that maybe doesn't have the disability. Trust planning is fantastic for minors. The cool thing about trust is, think of it as like your bucket of protection. You have all your assets that are going to either put into the bucket now, or they're going to fall into the bucket when you pass away. And then your trustee is going to control the bucket. We want to make sure that we don't have court involvement. We don't want the courts dictating how much you can spend on your children or what they need, or have to request permission from the court to spend money. You want it to be private. And so, having said that, you want to make sure that you do everything right. Now, when your children turn 18, okay, the one with the disability, we break their stuff out right then, because we want it to dump into their special needs trust. And we want to make sure that we're able to continue to take care of the other two children, or three, or one, or whatever you have. But we want to make sure that we have to pull theirs out so that they will qualify for SSI and Medicaid when they turn 18. So in our trust, your child, when this child with a disability turns 18, we split right then. So we want you to have a trust. If you don't have a special needs trust, I want you to get one now. You know why? We want everybody in God to put money in it. We want them to feel the need to donate Christmas, birthdays, you name it. If you've got parents or family that have a little bit of money, let them give you that 16,000 a year tax-free money. Maybe you've got siblings that don't have children. Ask them to take out a life insurance policy and make your kids trust the beneficiary. There are a lot of things we can do to help you fund that trust. A lot of out of the box thinking, and we want you to do that. So keep that in mind. Lots and lots of things that you want to do. And you can have $1 million in that special needs trust and still qualify for government benefits. So don't ever hesitate to do that. Has everybody on the list? Everybody signed up for the list? The list that's going to give your child benefits in about 15 years? If you don't know about the list, let me know because we're going to need to get you on that list. There's 3 types of trust that we talk about. The first one is a third-party trust. It's normally what you do for your inheritance or things that you're going to leave your child. You get to decide if there's money left in that trust. If something happens to your child, you get to decide where the money goes. Maybe your other children, grandchildren, charity, wherever. But if you don't plan and I'm in court trying to rescue your child's benefits, then it goes into a first party trust. And when your child passes, the federal government gets paid back first. Guess how much money you're going to have left? Because they will literally take everything they can to pay back everything they've paid. And so keep that in mind. For smaller amounts, when you don't have a lot of money to either justify a corporate trustee or someone to manage it well, we do pooled trust. And basically, it's a lot of little tiny trusts that are pulled together to maximize the ability to make money. The Arc of Texas, I have a few nonprofits that we use for clients um, that don't have enough money, but they've got some money for the nonprofits to serve as the trustees if necessary. We want to make your special needs trust a real treasure chest. We give it asset protection, make sure your wishes are carried out, and maintain the government programs that we can get you on because we want you to have everything we can do. We want you to build your team. Guardians, short-term, long-term. Trustees, who's going to manage the money when you're gone? Your experienced attorney in facts or your agents under your power of attorneys. Think about it. If you become incapacitated, your agent may be making decisions about your children as well, especially the ones that are still at home. I have a workshop that we do, and one of the slides is 83 and never an empty nester. So when you talk about having an adult disabled child that never leaves, so maybe your agent. So you need to know that they can handle whatever comes up. We put care advocate provisions in all of our trust. For the most part, they're optional unless certain things occur. And one of them is I want somebody looking at my kid at least once a month. I want to know they're happy. I want to know they're healthy. I want to know they're clean. I want to know that everything is good. So somebody needs to make sure they're looking at my kid. If they're in residential treatment or something, if they're in a residential facility somewhere, if they're not with family, you want someone to be able to look at your child. I have a lot of parents that have one child and the child has the disability. So we want to make sure that there's somebody watching them because I can't imagine being gone and not having the ability to do that. And then for most of you, family, because I imagine that some of you have family at home that are taking care of your children right now in order for you to be here today. So you go home and hug them, most definitely. Now, let me kind of back up real quick because I'm trying to do this quick to get y'all back on schedule. When you ask someone to be the guardian of your child, if they have not kept that child overnight for the weekend, a week at a time, they need to do that before you let them say yes. And you absolutely need to be okay if they tell you no. And you got to love them anyway, because some people are just not cut out for it. Just like caregivers, there are some people that are just not cut out to be caregivers. So you want to make sure that you're leaving them in the hands of people that are actually going to take care of them. Because if you don't, when you're gone, they can say no. They don't have to serve as the guardian. So keep that in mind. I always tell people if they're not watching your kids now, they're not going to watch your kids later. So find someone that will. Provide enough resources. One of the big things that we can do to help you provide enough resources is life insurance. All right. You need to shop that carefully because I thought I had a good plan until a guy reviewed my life insurance and told me it was going to stop at age 80. I plan to live past age 80. So that's going to be a problem because I need to fund that special needs trust with that money. So now we have to come up with a new game plan. And my former financial representative wants to retire. I may have to hurt him. And so, but think about the cost of money, what it costs to spend now. I mean, we're going through inflation or recession or I don't know, whatever somebody decides. I just know everything is more expensive now. And if you think it's coming down, it's not. So think about how much money it takes to take care of your child now, and then just add and add and add and add to that. So keep that in mind. It's just, I hate to tell you, but I told somebody, I was like, it's not going to get any better. I've never been so excited to see gas below $4. And last year it was below 3. I was like, we're in the wrong business. I want you to leave more than just your money and your house and your stuff. You know, the one thing that is so great about cell phones is the ability to videotape yourself. And I'm not talking about selfies because those kind of weird me out. I'm talking about videos. I'm talking about making videos for your child. I'm talking about singing songs. Do the things that makes that child happy, that if you're gone, they're going to want to see again. Sing to them, read to them, whatever. Fun things that you did with them, they can go back and look again. Start collecting that library because I think that's one of the things that's going to make it easier for them down the road. So we talked about guardianships briefly. If you're in Galveston County, they do guardianships for free down there for your kids turning 18. So I tell you that because it's probably going to cost you about $5,000 to do it in Harris County, if not more. By the time you pay us and the ad litem, all the filing fees went up this year. January 1, we were shocked and amazed. They unbundled everything and raised the prices of everything. And so I tell you that in case you want to move prior to your child turning 18 so you can get that free guardianship. We give you an opportunity to come see us if you want. We're a fun group. My mother said I was probably the only one that could talk about death and dying and still make it entertaining. And so just keep that in mind when you're visiting. And so, but we always want to give you the opportunity to visit if you want. Talk about your stuff. My goal is to put you a plan in place that works. And then we spend time with you after that. As you get older, we're going to spend more frequent time with you because elder abuse is on the rise. And the people you watch out for are your kids, grandkids. And so I bought my first really nice car. My grandson thinks I'm rich. And so he's already decided all the things. He's 11, mind you, all the things I'm supposed to buy him and the truck I'm supposed to buy him when he turns 16. And then he was shocked because I was going to work today. I said, I can't do this, son. I got to go to work. I don't know how fast we did this, but if you've got a minute or so, if you'll have a quick question, I can hang out for a little bit if you'd like. Be more than happy to answer anything. Okay, I never normally don't do a job that good, but so.
For those of us who are not from Texas, thank you. For those of us who are not from Texas, what types of things should we be looking for in a estate planning lawyer specifically to deal with children with special needs?
One of the first websites you can go to is NALA, National Association of Elder Law Attorneys, because part of that is disability as well as elder. I also belong to the Academy of Special Needs Planners. It's a really good group, and oh my God, one of the guys in there is so smart when it comes to Social Security. I just feel like a kindergartner. But a lot of those are there as well. You want to make sure that you have someone that has done it. Don't let an estate planning attorney if it's not something they do all the time, because they're going to mess it up. And so trust travel with you. So if you move from state to state, your trust should travel with you. We have one paragraph that we have to put in Texas trust, not your special needs trust, but in a revocable living trust. We have one paragraph we have to put in there. That's very state specific. The rest of it is designed for you to be able to travel from state to state. And so I'm not sure where you're from, but welcome to Texas. 12 days for sure of over 100-degree temperature. And so I can tell you it's hotter in Dallas. So if you're heading that way, you might want to drive slow. But here in Houston, nobody wants to go to Dallas anyway. So, and, uh, and having said that, I'm walking around with my Dallas Cowboy, water bottle because my mother raised little Dallas Cowboy fans. And so,
Boo.
hey, unfortunately, all of my children, wear Texans clothes. I'm like, really? But no, I root for the Texas teams as long as they're not playing mine. So, anything else I can answer for you?
Kim, you mentioned the list. What were you? Could you kind of go into a little bit there?
For those of you that are in Harris County, when your children are very little, and I always say the list, and everybody goes, "Yeah, I know what it is." I'll send you over to Gulf Coast Center. They'll put you add your name on the list. If you're looking for Medicaid programs when your child turns 18 and things like that, if you don't get on the list when they're very little, it's about a 15-year waiting list right now. So you want to get on and get it quick. Your smaller counties, the wait is not going to be that long, but they also don't have necessarily all the programs. There are a lot of programs and you want to be on the list. I have clients that the state pays them as kind of like foster parents to keep that child at home, over $2,000 a month. That's not chump change when you think about it, as far as helping, so especially, when you've got a parent that can't work. And so I have the number at the office. I don't have it right off the top of my head, but the Gulf Coast Center in League City, we just send them over there and they add them. They just do all the paperwork. They could do it over the phone and do it. So they work out really nice. Anything else I can answer for y'all real quick to keep y'all on track?
Got a question over here.
Do you know if they have lists like that similar in other states, I guess, that for a waiting list for, or a list to get on to help for assistance with children or Medicaid?
I would
disabilities?
imagine that there's probably something, but probably not as bad as it is here. So what I would recommend is that you contact the ARC in whatever state you're in, because usually they have the ARC in all the states. Like we have the ARC of Houston, the ARC of Texas. See if you can't find a social worker that handles children with disabilities. I finally found one I think we're fixing to add to my practice. And so I have somebody that knows all the ins and outs of doing that kind of stuff in my office. But you want to do your research to find out, because you don't want to be the one to find out at 17, oh, I should have done that. And so because there's lots and lots of good programs that are available. And if you live in better states, you may not have a list and you may have more programs because your governor took Medicaid where ours did not. So it's just a matter of really digging into that information.
Okay, thank you.
All right, for those of you live near me, we always give you a deal just to make sure to, if anything, to motivate you. I don't care if you don't use me, find you an attorney that practices with special needs with children with disabilities. You want someone very experienced. I do see a lot of experience. I mean, I know a lot of the experienced special needs attorneys that here in this area. I think our documents are better because we go out of our way to keep you out of court and most of them don't. So I just want to thank y'all for having me. I appreciate the invitation always. I enjoy doing this. If you liked the presentation, what I will tell you is if you go to my website under resources, under our virtual library, you can watch it. We recorded it during COVID. So it's a little slower version, maybe a few more jokes, maybe a little more entertaining, maybe not. I can't remember. I did it a while back, but you always try to make the things that you don't want to talk about as the easiest you can. So thank you guys, and you have a great day.